good start for the season. Taty and Dia, 4 goals in the last 2 games. Did we find our incredible duo? 4 games, 4 goals conceded in the first 10 minutes. What's going on? But most of all, why is Alistair still on the show? This is Lazio Lounge, your favorite Lazio podcast. Good morning, Alistair. So, plenty of things to talk about, but not a lot of time, right? You're a busy man. Before we start talking, can we give a shout out to Matt Gandini, one of our oldest Patreon? I met yesterday at the stadium. It was good to meet Matt finally, and hope to meet you again maybe in November. I think you're coming back to watch Lazio. So maybe next time even Alistair will be available, which is quite complicated usually, but maybe we can organize something.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see the Lazio Lounge community connecting. I was on strike last night about these sickening ticket price rises that Lotito's decided for some reason to put in at the moment that nobody is very happy with the club anyway. But we don't need to talk about that. Let's start with the game. Like you say, I mean, you pretty much summed it all up there. I don't know what else we're going to talk about now because you've just gone through all the talking points.
Well, of course, I did the big job. So let's start from the beginning, Alistair. 7 points in 4 games. I think we didn't expect that, right? Starting a new season with a new manager, a lot of players have changed, a lot of leaders have gone. You could see things not starting the right way, right? And let's not forget what happened last season. First 2 games, 0 points. I thought that had a huge impact last season. So it's very important to start well. And I thought it was a good start overall of this season, right?
Well, is it starting well, though, or is it starting well within the context of the big squad change? Because the thing is, you say we wouldn't have expected 7 points, but we've played Venezia and Verona at home. You would expect 6 points from that. And then Udinese away and Milan at home. To take 1 point from those 2 games is probably a bit below expectations, let's be honest. So I don't think it's been a huge success. But I think the good thing is that I think we have now seen over the last 2 games an identity starting to form. And we're starting to kind of understand a bit where Baroni is going with this and how this might function. At the moment, it is complete chaos. And if you're a neutral, I think Lazio are probably one of the best teams in Serie A to watch at the moment because it is unbelievably gung-ho football, really. But it is quite stressful. There's always going to be goals if this is a style of football we're going to play. But yeah, I think all things considered, it's not bad, but I wouldn't put it down as a huge success, taking 7 points.
Well, I'm going to rephrase it. 4 points ahead of Fiorentina, 4 points ahead of Roma, 1 point ahead of Atalanta after 4 games, with Lazio doing a weird transfer market and Roma spending more than, how much did they spend? 110 million euros, something like that.
And the only team we've lost to are the current Serie A leaders, Udinese. So maybe we should reframe that defeat because they're going to win the Scudetto now. Udinese.
Absolutely. It's coming. But, it's been a weird start of the season. I thought Inter would have won the first 4. Instead, they are 8 points, just 1 point ahead of Lazio. Let's not forget that. And, yeah, they played against Atalanta. They didn't have those incredible games. They drew against Monza. I mean, that's not an unbelievable achievement. Roma has, 3 points. They didn't win a game. Fiorentina, that is going to be our next opponent, is there. So, considering how the big teams or our competitors started, I thought we started better than them, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly helped. I think generally one of the themes so far has been that with all these coaching changes, it's been very hit or miss in terms of the success or not that the new eras have had. And it probably does help Lazio that at the time that we're undergoing this huge change and transformation and all these new players and new identity and all this, so are a lot of our rivals. And you're right, that is kind of early season. That is really what you need to focus on more, isn't it? Because ultimately, Udinese aren't going to win the Scudetto, so it doesn't really matter if they're top at the moment. And yeah, you do need to look at how your rivals are doing comparatively. Yeah, and also how the new changes are being implemented and so on. I think the probably biggest talking point after this game is the same one as the last game, which is the idea of playing Taty and Dia together, which seemed very kind of I don't know, kind of courageous, you could say, reckless, you might say at first, because of how attacking this team is. But I mean, Vittorio, it's certainly working. They're creating a load of chances between the two of them. They've both scored in both of the last two games. Taty's one goal off equaling his total from last season. I mean, it's been a success, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's incredible after 4 games. But you're right. I thought playing Castellanos and Dia together, no one can see that happening. But even more, it's not that we are playing Taty and Castellano alone. We are adding Zaccagni on one side and Isaacsen or Ciaunao Nosling on the other. We are playing with 4 attackers, you know. They're not 4 strikers, but offensive wingers, 2 number 9. I mean...
and then Tavares and Lazzari are both like attacking fullbacks as well.
You know, it's like FIFA.
Yeah.
It's playing, you know, it's not football. It's something different. And obviously, we are creating a lot of chances. And I mean, to our old listeners, we go back to Inzaghi football, right? We were saying it doesn't mean that if you put in 4 strikers, we're going to score a lot of goals, right? Do you remember that at the beginning, Inzaghi, when we were struggling, he would put strikers in, and we were finishing the game with 4 strikers and maybe without scoring a single goal. Baroni is putting 4 strikers and we are scoring and we are attacking. We are creating a lot of chances. 4 games we played so far and we score in every single game. We don't have, incredibly, the best attack of the Serie A, but we're close.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of chances being wasted on top of all the goals we're scoring, and you know, you can see that as a negative if you want to, but to be honest, I don't really, because I think that it's just good to see this team creating loads of chances, because let's not forget, under Sarri, that was such a big talking point. It was, even the season we finished second, the XG of the team as a total was so much lower than the amount they got. And okay, on the one hand, that is fantastic composure in front of goal, but on the other, it goes to show that the team wasn't creating nearly enough chances, and they were too reliant really on the brilliant finishing, which probably isn't as sustainable. So, you know, I think it was 14 shots last night, 7 on target. I think if you can continue creating that many inches, you are gonna get goals, and it takes the pressure off a little. A guy like Taty Castellanos, I think, under Sarri and in his first season in general, because we didn't create as much, there was so much pressure on him every time he had a big chance, you know? And I really don't think that helped him, because he was clearly struggling with his finishing anyway, but also he wasn't getting that many opportunities. And so every time he did, he kind of bottled it. And now we're seeing it doesn't matter as much when I say when, not if, Taty bottles a big chance, because I'm sure he will continue to do that, because he'll always get another one. And it's kind of reminds me of what we used to say about Ciro Immobile. You know, for me, he was never like the best instinctive finisher in the world. It was just, he was one of the most intelligent strikers out there. His movement was brilliant. His work rate was brilliant. And even if he did miss a chance, you always knew he would find another one because of the player he was. And I think that's now the way we can look at this Lazio team. They'll always get another chance, so it doesn't matter as much. And I think that has helped Taty just relax a bit. Obviously, the goals help too, but I think the two things go hand in hand.
Before talking about Taty and Dia, we can say goodbye to 1-0 results, right? With Sarri, we won so many games 1-0. I think this is gone. It's not going to happen this season, right? Because we're going to score more and we're going to concede a lot of goals. I think the bookmakers are going to take out the over for the Lazio game, because it's easy peasy, right? I think so far every game we played, have been scored more than 3 goals. 2 goals, yeah, Udinese 2-1. So it's bizarre how this team changed, right? Last season we struggled to score, to create chances. This season we are creating so many chances. It's unbelievable. And going back to Taty Castellanos, well, I think yesterday he had one chance and he scored. So I think the confidence boost is very important. He started the season strong. I think even Dia is helping him, which I was a little bit concerned. I thought the biggest issue I had, I thought that Dia would take off space from Castellanos and the other way around. Instead, the two are working very well together, and we saw it yesterday. And this is surprising because I thought we're talking about 2 number 9s, but at the same time they're working well together and they're defending, because that's it. That's the important thing, right? You can play with 4 strikers, but if they don't defend, you're gonna be losing too many games.
Yeah, Diaz really impressed me. I mean, I thought he could be a good signing, but I didn't expect him to be a signing who made an instant impact in this way. And he seems like a really intelligent player, because I've noticed people are really struggling to know how to write down this Lazio formation, because it could be a 4-4-2, it could be a 4-2-3-1, it could be a 4-4-1-1. It doesn't really matter. It could be a 4-2-4. There's so many different ways of writing how this team is set up, because it is pretty fluid in the way that they attack. And Dia, I think, has been particularly crucial to that, because he's certainly playing a bit behind Taty. But at times they will be alongside each other like an old school partnership. But he just seems like a really smart player, because he does seem to know when it's needed for him to drop in, him to link the midfield to the attack a bit more. The way that he kind of gets between the lines, the way that he attacks the space. I've been really impressed with him, and technically he's a really good player as well. I think he's got good feet. So I think Taty's benefiting from having someone to play off, to be honest. I think it suits his game more than being isolated in a 4-3-3, for example. And like I say, I think just takes the pressure off him a bit. And I think it feels good. He needed that. There was a lot of talk going into this season around this, and who's going to fill Chiro's boots, and how the club is messed up by not signing a new number 9, and the doubts around Taty. And so far, he's proved people wrong. And I do think he needs... he obviously needs to keep it up, but at the same time, this is exactly what he needed to do from the start scoring goals, and he's done that. So it is quietening people down. It's keeping him in the team as well, because Noslin is on the bench now, who we expected to be a starter when he first arrived. In attack, it's looking pretty positive. Tavares, again, excellent yesterday. I mean, I saw him being compared to Teo Hernandez in the paper today, and you can kind of see why. He's so explosive from left back. He just wants to run all the time and just get up the pitch. And it's really exciting to watch, but his crossing is excellent. It's been so long since we've had a left back who can put good deliveries in the box from the wing. And I think it's helping Zaccagni be able to move inside a bit more. And attacking wise, this team looks like it's got some real potential to do damage. But unfortunately, we are still struggling in the defensive side. I don't know if you want to get onto that or not, but that is, the flip side to that.
Yeah, before talking about the defense, I want to add something about Dia. I thought he was a great signing, but I thought he could create competition with Castellanos. I thought, Dia would have sooner or later becoming the starting number 9 and Castellanos on the bench. So it's good to see them playing together, because I think Dia is a great signing, and I'm pleased to see Castellano improving and working together. So again, you mentioned Noslin. He should have been the number 9, but we understood pretty early that it wasn't his job. So now he's a little bit struggling to find the minutes. even because Chaunam, who came in yesterday, played really well. I thought he had 2 shots on target, very dangerous. Made an unbelievable assist to Zaccagni, who I still didn't understand how he missed that one. But yeah, we created a lot of chances, and I thought Dia would have been probably the best signing of the season. Even though now with Nuno Tavares, we have another option there. Talking about the defense, 4 games in a row that we conceded a goal in the first 10 minutes. Funny enough, I don't know about yourself, but when we scored after, what was it, 4 minutes, I said, wow, this time we scoring earlier. We changed the tie. Instead, after 2 minutes, we conceded. And Alistair, I had to see it 5 times. I couldn't believe it. What a stupid goal we conceded. Both the central defender made the same movement, and we allowed the number 9 of Verona to be all alone in front of Provedel. That's terrible defending. That's unbelievable defending for a Serie A team, right?
Can I shock you? Because this goal was my fault. And I'm going to take responsibility, because I was watching the game with my wife, and I said to her, I was like, it's almost 10. We're almost 10 minutes in, and Lazio haven't conceded yet. This is going to be the first. And literally, as I finished that sentence, that pass just went through. The 2 centre backs just disappeared, and the ball. It was like you mentioned FIFA earlier. It was like old FIFA games where there's like a glitch, and the ball just kind of goes through the person like they're not there. And they scored. So yeah, that was my fault. Sorry about that. I mean, it is a bit mad that 4 games in a row now, it's not a coincidence anymore at this point. No. And it happened in such a different way this time, like you say, because probably they actually did come out with the right attitude this time, and they were determined to start well and not do this. And by taking the early lead, it was the best possible start. But then, the complacency comes from a different direction this time, because the complacency comes from getting that early lead and feeling like, okay, now we're comfortable, now we can settle. And all it takes is that lack of concentration for a second, and it's gone. So yeah, I mean, they are showing resilience in a way that I think is encouraging. We could talk for hours about how different this is to what we've seen before under Sarri, but certainly that's another thing we can point to is the way that in those years Lazio were utterly useless if they faced adversity in a match, whether it was being 1-0 down and having to make a comeback, or if a team is making a comeback against them. They were not good at trying to change the momentum of a match. And I think just under Baroni, they have to be good at that, because the matches themselves seem to all be so wide open and wild that they need to be good at that. So in a way, we can see a positive there, because, getting the early goal and then immediately conceding meant that they had to do the mental reset. They had to find another way to win this game, and they did do that in the end. Should have won it more comfortably, for me. Because it was still nervous at the end, wasn't it? But yeah.
You know what? We have to talk about Gila. He came back after a long absence. Don't think he played well enough. I thought, we talked about the first goal, but he made a couple of bad mistakes. We really struggled. And I thought Baroni would have taken him off in the second half, which didn't happen. It was a little bit of a surprise. He was our best defender last season. We need him back at top form. And yesterday wasn't a good performance for Gila, or at least this is my point of view. I don't know if watching it from home, you had a different sensation about Gila and our defense. Obviously, with Tavares and Lazzari, we are going to struggle. We don't have great defenders, right? Even the midfield. I mean, Rovella it's not a defensive midfielder. And same thing about Guendouzi. So we're going to be very off balance. We need central defenders to step up, right?
Yes. I did think he looked a little bit rusty. I think he probably is. Once he gets back to form, he could be the kind of player who suits this system, because you do need guys with a bit more pace back there, probably to deal with the spaces that he's going to have to be defending, which will be far wider open spaces than previously. But yeah, I mean, it's something we talked about in the season preview, is that he has to consolidate what he showed last year. It's a big season for Gila, because he came out of nowhere last year to become such an important player. But he needs to show that wasn't a one-off. He does need to. It's a big season for him to prove himself. So he can't take anything for granted. I mean, the same can be said for Romagnoli. Almost, we've been quite critical of his form in the last year or so, just because you expect better from him. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting one, because Baroni's talked about balance before, and he seems to think that we will find it eventually, but there needs to be some sort of defensive system that is more solid than this, and because it's not just the amount of goals we're conceding and how early they are, but I think the style of football, the high tempo and the directness and the amount of sprints and all this, it just makes me think that Baroni, his inexperience playing European competitions, I don't know how capable this team will be of keeping this kind of style up when we're playing 3 games a week. I think that's going to be a different challenge, because I don't know if necessarily even we can rotate the team, yes, but I don't know if we've necessarily got the players on the bench who can go and replicate this style very easily.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to find the balance. We're simply going to accept that we are a very offensive-minded team, and we're going to try to score more goals than the opponent, because we're going to concede. I think that's where we're going to find the balance. And next week, I think, Alistair, we're going to have a real test. We are playing Fiorentina, lunch match on Sunday. Then there is Dynamo Kiev on Wednesday, because it's going to be the Europa League week. Then we're going to have Torino, I think, and then Nice at home. So we're going to test our team. And one of the concerns I have is, now with Dia and Castellanos starting, well, they're not going to be able to play every single game, right? So my question is, now that the Europa League is coming, are we going to see Castellanos and Dia playing together? And maybe in Europe, we're going to see Noslin and Dele Bashiro playing instead? Or do you think they're going to rotate? Castellanos playing in Serie A, Dia playing number 9 in the Europa League? Because number-wise, I don't think we have enough quality players to rotate that much, without forgetting that Castrovilli is not in the European list, so he's going to play only in the Serie A, and we need to talk about Castrovilli before the end of the podcast.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, it's interesting as well, because I think that if this is the system, and ideally you want to be able to replace all 11 players with a second 11, I guess the next strikers to come in for those two would be Noslin and Chauna, who are both wingers, basically. I mean, I think those two are probably more strikers than Pedro is in terms of playing through the middle. We've been down that path before.
Yeah.
And both of those guys have been playing on the wing, Chauna and Noslin.
Noslin has been playing.
Yeah, okay. Noslin's come off the bench and played.
No, but I said Noslin has played number 9 with Verona last year with Baroni.
Yeah, I know, and so's Chauna, but I think my point is that they've come into Lazio to play on the wing mostly, so they are going to have to try and change that in order to accommodate those two guys. I mean, my feeling is, to begin with, he's going to just stick with Dia and Taty for as long as he can, because it's working. You don't want to stop the momentum just for the sake of it. Taty obviously had to come off yesterday with some sorts of muscular problems, so it doesn't sound like it's serious, but it does go to show that that those kind of niggles are probably going to only become worse the more games we have. So yeah, it'll be interesting, and it does feel like this system and style is more kind of like throwing numbers in the right areas rather than necessarily relying on individuals. I think it will help to have the better individuals in the right places. But I do think that Baroni is kind of trying to build something that just kind of overwhelms the opposition by the force of numbers and his eagerness to get as many players forward as possible and crowd the box and, you know, force the opposition back. I do think there's a lot of players who are going to have to up it, though. I mean, Isaacson, I was disappointed with yesterday. It's a big chance for him. Again, talking about Gila needing to consolidate. Isaacson, he has to take the chances he gets, and he started brightly enough. And I thought it's a big moment for him, because if he plays well last night, I think he's kind of nailed down that position for a little bit. And he didn't have a terrible game. It's just that I felt like he could have influenced it more. And Chauna then came on and looked like a guy who was really fired up and was desperate to score a goal and had a point to prove. So
it's funny enough that every right winger that comes in played better than the player that started. So Chauna played there, and when Isaacson came in, we thought, oh, he's playing much better. He should be starting. And then Isaacson started, and Chauna coming in, and he's playing better than Isaacson. So that's weird. But we are a little bit in a hurry. What do you think about Castrovilli? Just a little background to our listener. He's not in the Europa League list, so he can play till January or in Serie A. Baroni said he's going to play in this coming games because we're going to play every 3 days, and he's not going to play in Europa League, so he's going to play in Serie A. He came in quite early yesterday. For me, it wasn't a great impact. I saw him struggling a lot, but maybe I didn't see it very well. What's your take on Castrovilli performance yesterday?
Well, I didn't really notice him, to be honest. I hope to see him make an impact on the game, but I don't think he really did. And yeah, the exclusion from the European list, it does, obviously, I think the first thing it makes anyone wonder is how is his fitness? Because that was always the big question around him when he was first signed. And obviously, we've not seen a huge amount of him so far. So the fact he's been left out does automatically make you wonder if in training or whatever, Baroni is not getting the answers that he wants. Or if he just simply thinks 2 competitions will be too much for this guy. So if we need to choose one, we choose Serie A.
Yeah, but he's a professional player. He should be able to play twice a week, right? Otherwise, there's a problem there. I mean, why do you get a player who's not able to play twice a week? Especially because you're not Real Madrid or Manchester City. You have 21 players. So, taking one out will put pressure on Baroni because he has less option. Already, we sold Cataldi and we didn't find a replacement. We're already thin in midfield. Now we're even thinner.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to say. That the thing that does confuse me on top of that is why, if you're going to trim the squad, why you would get rid of a guy who can play central midfield. Because, you say, we went through the whole Cataldi thing a couple of weeks ago, so we don't need to do that again. But now, you're asking so much of Rovella and Guendouzi. Okay, Vecino can step in. Deli Bashiru can probably step in, but since this change of formation, we've not really seen him be used as a one of those 2 in the middle. And that's it. There's not really any versatility in the rest of the squad. It's not like you've got a winger who can move into centre mid. It's not like you've got a fullback who can step into centre mid.
Patrick, probably. That's my idea. But
Patrick.
Yeah, I mean,
Is this your version of my Bastos for striker? Is this your alternative?
Well, I think he has the feet of a midfielder. He runs enough. He's a central defender, so he's used to defend. Could be an option. I mean, we're desperate there. Yesterday, when Rovella got the yellow card, I said, well, we have to take him off in the second half. But who do you bring in? I mean, Vecino can play there, but he's not a great defender. He's very good in scoring, in attacking, but not the same at defending. So
None of them are, though. That's the crazy thing about this team. It's like it's so attack-minded, and like the two central midfielders are about the only guys who aren't being told, attack. But neither of them are holding midfielders naturally. I think Ravella's, like I've said for a while, I'm really impressed by his defending. I think he's good at defending, but he's not naturally a holding midfielder.
No.
And Guendouzi is not, he's a natural 8 in the same way that Ravella is a natural playmaker. But neither of those guys are kind of doing what they're naturally adept at. And it's going to be exhausting to play in central midfield for this Lazio team because there's so much space everywhere. So
there's not going to be a lot of alternative. I mean, if you have to do turnover, you have Vecino, and then who comes in? Really, Dele Bashiru playing there? Castrovilli is not on the list, so probably he's going to play there in Serie A, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, we have question marks, Alistair. We started the season well, but we have still a lot of question mark, right?
I think Fiorentina is going to be that could be one of the most high-scoring games of the season because they are wild as well. So who knows? I mean, they do not like to keep clean sheets either. So and that's generally a fixture we have some fun with. So yeah, let's see. I mean, look, it is entertaining, and like you say, the results pretty positive. I think the Udinese blip was not a good one, but other than that, we can be pretty happy with it. So yeah, enjoy the ride.
Yeah, let's not forget that Verona beat Napoli, and it's the only team who beat Antonio Conte Napoli. So I mean, we underestimate our opponent too often, I think. But anyway, Alistair, I know you have to dash. Thanks for joining me. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for our Patreon. We wouldn't be able to do it without you. So really, thank you very much. You can subscribe to our channel on YouTube. If you want to support us, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts at $2 a month. We're going to be back next Monday after Fiorentina Lazio. So take care and please rate and review the podcast if you can. Bye.
Cheers.